hot takes. That's actually what we're going to do. We're going to watch some videos.
Hot takes, huh? I wouldn't necessarily be the hot take
guy.
No,
really?
I mean, well, with a camera on. My hottest takes are going to be, hey, shut that off for a second.
We got some videos.
All
You ready
right.
for this?
Yeah.
Let's get your take
Let's
on
go.
this. You ready to do some hot takes today?
You've been watching a lot of ESPN?
Get out. I've been watching a lot of ESPN for the last 21 years being married to you. Come on now. How dare you?
Oh, yeah. I apologize.
I watch ESPN sometimes or listen to sports radio just so like I know I can have a little bit of sports gossip to share with you.
Yeah, you sometimes you tell me things I didn't know.
That is truly, when that happens, it's like the highlight of my week. It feels so good. When I know a piece of sports information before you and I can serve it up piping hot, nope, just no better feeling.
Does he fact check
Chef's
you?
kiss. Sometimes, but I feel like usually, you're like, oh, really? And you end up hearing it yourself, on TV or something like that later that night.
Well,
but yeah,
thank
it's
you.
a very good feeling.
Thank you for caring. Thank you for that's an act of
It's
love.
fun. You've done that kind of thing plenty of times. I mean, we've talked about this. Anyways, okay, hot takes. That's actually what we're gonna do. We're gonna watch some
Hot
videos.
takes, huh?
We're gonna watch some videos. Maybe
It doesn't
not
have to be
hot.
that high. It could be warm.
It could be a lukewarm take.
I was going
It
to
could be
say,
a
I don't know that
room
I'm
temp
not.
take.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be the hot take.
Guy.
No,
Really?
I mean, well, with a camera on.
Okay.
I'm
All right. So on that note,
my hottest takes are going to be, hey, shut that off for a second.
okay. So
Yeah, I appreciate that.
okay. So on that note, we got some videos.
All
You
right.
ready for this?
Yeah,
Let's get your take
let's
on
go.
this.
Oh, yeah. I can't hear it.
Yeah.
Does it have no audio?
No, it has audio. It's just like,
Yeah. So are we doing here? Is this stuff I've posted or like?
yeah. So I went and grabbed some clips off your story.
Okay.
And so I think kind of like learning why you reshared it
Yeah, that's good.
and then kind of like diving deep. I have a few, and you guys got a meeting in a little bit, so we'll go kind of quick with it.
Yeah. So for those of you, if you're listening and not watching, this was a video somebody posted that I reposted, and it was of a reenactment. There was like kind of a parade, so to speak, of reenacting the crucifixion of Jesus, but it was like his walk
The processional. Yeah.
down the Via Dolorosa to Golgotha. And while he's walking, everybody's dressed up like Roman soldiers. Jesus is being whipped, crown of thorns, and he's walking through town. And this boy with special needs, with Down syndrome, basically just fought through the crowd and came and put his arm around Jesus and just started walking with him. He's like comforting him, And when I saw that, I just thought, obviously our church does a lot, our family does a lot with kids with special needs, but there was just this purity for this kid. Like he didn't know this was a play. Like he didn't know this was not real. He thought it was real. And the kid took it upon himself proactively to go, why is everybody okay with this? And, just went in, took it upon himself to go, I'm going to comfort this guy. Probably not even fully understanding who Jesus was, just saw, here's a guy who's hurting. And I'm going to come alongside, man, and just be there with him and just, put his head on his shoulder, rubbing his arm, comforting him. And it was just like, gosh, I think like in this world that we live in where you see so much conflict, so much tension, so much aggression, something that clean, that pure, and it resonates with something inside you. And I also was feeling for that kid. I'm thinking like, man, I hope he wasn't kind of traumatized by it.
That was actually my first, I guess this is probably the one video I'd have a hot take on. Like, I don't love it because I feel like, I see like the sweetness and the purity of his heart, which is beautiful, but like, I really hope that he knew that was a reenactment. I wouldn't have brought him there to something like that.
I mean, look at his courage though. Like he's obviously like
at one point, if you watch a longer clip, he actually like pushes one of the Roman soldiers away from Jesus. Like,
I mean,
like
but think
he's
about that.
very brave.
He's
He's
brave.
a beautiful soul. So, but I am a little concerned that like, was this unnecessarily traumatizing? Does this affect his worldview that he thinks like we just let people horribly mistreat someone through the middle of town and no one's doing anything, and he's feeling like he's alone in the world being a good. So I'm certainly hopeful that they explain to him before or at least after that
I think
hey buddy, this is just a play, that wasn't real, but
Right.
like we're so proud of you for being kind, and that's what you should do in real life, is if you seeing someone being mistreated, you should be kind to them. So yeah, I had a little like mixed feeling about that myself.
I feel you. And yeah, I mean, I think at some point, it's like, at what point does reality for someone tip over into, it's so overwhelming it ends up being traumatic? But I think the reality is like, it is a picture of some, again, the picture of Jesus I talked about this Easter. You have the ultimate innocent person being killed in the most brutal way. Like it's an expose of the empire mentality, and when your life is driven by the power of fear and the love of power, how big the injustice can get, right? So again, for a child or a person with special needs whose ability to kind of work their way through really abstract thoughts, all he's seeing is, what's concrete
Cruelty.
or what's in front of him, right? But again, I don't know. I mean, obviously, we would want to assume he has healthy guardians and parents and people who are essentially going to walk him through that in a healthy way. If they didn't, you could see where it really could be a
formative
terrible
moment
thing
in
for
a
that
terrible
kid.
way. Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, to affirm, like, I mean, he thinks he's empowered. I mean, he's not only being proactive and comforting Jesus. I mean, this is convicting. Would I stand there on the side?
If I was in a moment where, like you said, clearly to him, it seems real. Would I stand up for someone that was being
this
victimized?
Kid didn't hesitate.
He would.
And here's the Roman soldier with the whip in his hand, and he's pushing the guy off, believing he can do something about it.
That's right.
I mean, I watched that. I mean, obviously that the soul and the heart of that kid was moving, but also it was kind of convicting.
Yeah.
At what point do we just stand on the sideline and just let something happen in front of us? And at some point, where
Somebody's gotta
do
stand up
you
and do
go
something.
out and just walk with the guy?
That's right.
I feel like that's what Jesus would do if Jesus was watching this. Like, I feel like Jesus would go out there and put his arm around him.
I mean, in a complicated world, sometimes there's some simple things we need to pay attention to. In a complicated world, you're thinking of who's guilty for what and all this, and you go, here's a guy suffering, and somebody to go walk with him and comfort him or just help him is in any way,
Sometimes that's the best thing you can do is just walk with somebody in their dark time. Yep.
All right, next one.
His smile. Oh.
Greg, you want to talk through what's happening for the people listening?
So the caption is, a young boy who's never had a birthday party gets heartwarming surprise from teacher and classmates. So he just thinks he's showing up to a day of class, and he walks in and his whole class has, planned a party for him. They're all singing, they're all cheering him on. Essentially, they've
got balloons and a table set up with a cake.
They're celebrating him, and apparently, again, the backstory is the boy's never had a birthday party, so I don't know exactly where this is or whatever.
They look like they're probably about third grade, so that's a long time.
Yeah, so they're all celebrating him. To me, it made me think about, as the body of Christ, we mourn with those who mourn, we celebrate with those who celebrate. And I think the celebrating with those who celebrate is a pretty big missing piece. I'm not trying to indict churches or, whatever, not even just in church, like in society, like, you're going through something low. A lot of people, I think, reach for empathy. I think usually when people are winning, they reach for jealousy.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't reach for empathy. Sometimes they, let you walk through it by yourself. But for the most part, I think people go, when someone's suffering, that tends to be more relatable. Success often leads to jealousy. And you see, again, it's not even that he's succeeding at a birthday, which I guess is success in some ways, but essentially they were celebrating him. And in a way that, obviously, like, he walked in, he was surprised.
He started crying.
And he puts his hands over his face, and then, so I just thought, like, man, like, when somebody comes into our community, certainly there's a time for grieving. Certainly there's a time for correction. Certainly there's a time for development. There's all those things, but there's a time to just celebrate, like, that person.
Yeah.
And I just thought, man, when someone's in our community, I hope they feel that. Like, I hope they feel that, that you're getting the full deal. We're not just here to correct all your mistakes and
not just
clean
to
up all your
mourn with you
behaviors.
when you mourn.
No, bro, like, we love you.
Yeah.
And again, that happens at the smaller levels, right? That happens in a group. It happens in a family. It happens in when it's a small enough number where we're all actually really getting to know each other and having that moment, and you just saw how it touched his heart, so that, I don't know, to me, I saw the body of Christ and how it should function. What are your thoughts?
I also just see, like, the truly pure joy of the kids celebrating him. They get it. I think kids get so much more than we give them credit for. And I think this idea that we have sometimes when we approach parenting or teaching or correcting kids, and, like, oh, they're just naturally going to gravitate towards a bad thing, and it's our job to try to corral them away from that. No, it's not. This is the heart of a kid.
Yeah.
You do have to guide them, because life will guide them the wrong way sometimes. They'll have things that influence their hearts to a different way. But this is, somebody commented, children healing children, that's the best of humanity right there. And they couldn't have said it better. I think, we naturally know how to be there for each other. We naturally, just like the kid in the last video, right? Mourning with someone who is mourning, and these kids celebrating with someone who's celebrating. I think we do naturally know how to do those things. That's the light of God in us, right? That's being in the image of God, and that's the best, truest piece of us.
I think when you see kids doing things like that, it is particularly convicting, and I think it's okay. I think you need to sit with that and think about it, because you go, again, we don't know this whole story. I don't know this kid. I wasn't there. I don't know these people in depth, but I mean, you have a kid who's probably, like you said, probably about third grade, probably never had, they say he's never had a birthday party, probably never been celebrated like this. Might even think, like, why would you celebrate me? All I do is whatever. And probably taking for granted some of his own character qualities. I mean, it's like when the kids are this excited to celebrate you, he's probably been a pretty good friend to some people.
Right.
He's probably been pretty nice, right?
They all seem so excited to give him a hug.
100%. So, like, but probably a lot of those things he's not thinking are any big deal. I'm just showing up, as myself. And because we're with ourselves all the time, even sometimes our strengths and the good things about us, we just sort of take for granted what impact they're having on the people around us. And in a moment like this, everybody rallies around him, And so I think in some ways they were starting to teach him to appreciate some of the things about himself that he's been taking for granted. And again, I go back to healthy community I go, how good of a job as adults are we doing of doing that?
That's right.
Of celebrating each other in that way. So that was where I saw that and wanted to reshare it.
Okay, last one. We got like 5 minutes.
All right.
This one has like a few videos that go along with it. I'll play them, but it might help to kind of give context to what's happening.
And as you can see, Madden really delivered. He got to leave school for the show. He joined Dan, Laura, Field, and J-Mac on the set. All the monitors were filled with his drawings. Dan says that Madden's autism is his superpower, and that his drawings give him an out to express himself and have some fun. Madden also showed off pictures from the movie Toy Story, and then it turned into this moment.
Andy's first toy is Buzz? Woody.
I love it.
You got a friend in me.
That is not it.
Can you sing too?
Dan.
Got a friend in me.
Oh, got it.
I'm a roll.
You can draw.
Rub a head and you're miles and miles from
And in honor of World Off.
your nice warm bed.
Yay!
Just remember what your old pal said. Boy, you got a friend in me. Some other folks might feel a little bit smarter than I am. Bigger and strong, but maybe, but none of them. Oh, I will love you the way I do. It's me and you, boy, and as the years go by.
That was, you were there, you saw it. Dan is a very special friend of ours, and that was about as good as anything I've ever seen. What was it like to be there?
It was so cool from when Madden walked in the green room and how excited he was to be on TV and walk in the studio. And we didn't show it there, but he hadn't seen any of that. And he first walks into the studio.
Nice.
And talking to Dan beforehand, as you see right here, he was nervous because he didn't know how Madden was going to react when he saw all this stuff up. And he started sprinting around the studio, going from picture to picture. And for me to just watch Dan as a father, watch his son in his own element, not worried about a camera, not worried about who else was in the studio, but just find pure joy in something that he loves was one of the coolest things in the world.
Yeah, some things don't really require a reaction. It's fairly self-evident how special that was. So we wanted to show it to you, and we hope it was as meaningful to you as it was to us.
And talking to Dan before.
Well,
Why don't you go first?
I don't know if either of us can go first. Good grief. I will say the picture of him, I would encourage you to go watch this on YouTube if you're listening to the audio only version, but the picture of his dad in the bottom left corner says it all. I think the love and the pain, but also the pride and the joy in seeing your child be fully who they are and be loved and accepted by the world is really special. I think there's something so beautiful that we can see in moments like this about the heart of God, and that is that us in our purest form, even if somebody else doesn't see it as big, powerful, smart. You know, I love that song. He says, some other folks might be bigger and stronger than I am, or smarter than I am, bigger and stronger too. Maybe, but none of them will ever love you the way I do. I think the heart of God and the most beautiful piece in each of us that reflects it is when he sees us at our most pure version of ourselves, our just who we are, not trying to be anything else. It is more than enough. Got anything?
Yeah.
I got to take a break.
Yeah, so Dan Orlovsky is the guy on the bottom left. He played like quarterback for the Detroit Lions.
Right.
And then he's an analyst, on their during the NFL season. And the thing I was thinking about is like as in parenting, you want your kids to be safe. You want them to be free. And ultimately, you want them to be fulfilled. And it's like, what is that, right? So I'm sure, like, I probably have some common ground with Dan Orlovsky in that when I imagined having a son, I had a pretty good idea of what that was going to be in terms of setting him up with the tools for success. And, not necessarily saying, hey, you have to be a businessman or you have to be an athlete or you have to be in whatever. You're trying to set them up on their path for success, but you have a pretty good idea of what that's going to be. I mean, I have to think an NFL quarterback. Probably it's planned out the first 5 years, of this kid's life, right? And then you find out that
And you have certain tools in your toolbox you're excited to be able to pass on.
100%. I mean, he has to think he's a pretty unique guy in that, he'd been exposed to different types of development and training.
Had success in multiple fields.
Yeah, and going, I want to share this,
That's right.
with my son. And then to not be able to, right? And to have that not be his path, and then your fear is that they're not going to ever get to that point, that their whole life would just be about surviving, and their whole life would just, again, not even have belonging. So a good mom or a good dad doesn't need to overprogram their kid's destiny in terms of the specifics as much as you're trying to put them on a path and a trajectory where they'll ultimately live their purpose and find fulfillment. And so when I look at that picture on the bottom left and I watch him watching his son, it was almost like a joy and a relief around he found it, right? Even if it's, the kid comes in and all of his art pieces and the stuff, all of a sudden it's displayed on these big LED walls, and he's just like, didn't see it coming. All of a sudden he recognizes his work, and so he's getting to sing a song he loves, and he's getting to look at the work of his hands, where most of us would look and say, hey, that's not great art. But it was great art to him, and to him he found fulfillment. And as a dad, you're feeling a sense of peace and joy and gratitude that, like, no, he's not going to play quarterback for the Lions. No, he's not going to take the path I took. I don't care.
I don't need him to.
I don't need him to. It's not what a good dad cares about. Going, what is his path, and does he find ultimately the fulfillment to use his gifts, whatever portion those are, in a way that's fulfilling. So it was almost like you could see him going, like, this is what I worried would never happen, and I'm seeing it happen. Yeah. And there's a sense of joy and, like, even personal contentment around that, because that's the responsibility you feel as a parent, right? Yeah. And then to see him accept, his son as he is, and to accept that it plays out this way, I found encouraging. I found common ground with it, because that's all I want. I don't want or need any of our kids to duplicate anything I've done, or to one-up me or do any of that. It's about finding their thing, and so for a guy who really seems to get it, again, I think it's encouraging and convicting to kind of stand back and go, well, if I can do that for that kid, maybe that should at least in some way impact how I treat everybody.
Yeah. What else could you need to say?
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Sorry for putting that video in front of you.
That's all right.
Nope.
It's all right.
It's
good stuff. I mean, I think in general, right, it's like, I think, in a world of reels, the worst way you can handle it is that you just completely get, just tune out and numb yourself. Yeah. Which we've talked about before. A little bit of stupid fun isn't bad. But, I think often if you take these things, you go, what is it about this, that speaks to me? And a lot of times it can stimulate some really good conversation, some deep thoughts, and even bring a measure of clarity and healing. Mm-hmm. So good idea, man. Good stuff.
Love it. See you guys.